Welcome, everyone. Welcome, hello, and thank you for joining us. We're going to just take a few moments to let everyone get into the webinar as we're populating. Today, we're going to be walking through the California Venues Grant application and its guidelines for nonprofit and for-profit organizations. The information provided will be available on our website at Californians for the Arts and can also be found in the California Venues Program and Application Guide on the Lendistry website. We're going to just welcome everyone. If you want to drop in the chat the organization you're from and where you're located, tell us a little bit about who's here today. That'd be great. We'd love to see who's joined us. Welcome, Tony from LA Theater Works. Sarah, thanks for joining us. Stephen, Jeanette, Sandra, Keith, Andrew. Hi, Andrew, I just talked to you today. Paul, welcome everyone. Emily. Deborah, great to have everybody coming, representing all over the state. We really appreciate that. In case I forget to say this later, please do share this information about this grant with any of your constituents that you think might also qualify. Anybody that's working in events and venues, please share. We have several more webinars coming up. We really want to make sure we get this out to everyone. So again, we're going to be walking through the California Venues Grant application and its guidelines for nonprofit and for-profit organizations. We'll make sure to send you an email after this with a link to the webinar as well as the PowerPoint presentation. So now we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome Eduardo Robles from Californians for the Arts to take care of our technical details for the webinar and our land acknowledgement. Welcome, Eduardo.
Hi, thank you, Tara. Closed captioning is being provided solely for the convenience of our viewers. Captions are visually displayed over the video, which benefits people who are deaf and hard of hearing, and anyone who cannot hear the audio due to noisy environments. If you would like to disable this feature, at the bottom right-hand side of the Zoom window, there is the live transcript button. Please click this button, then select Hide Subtitle to close the closed captions. This webinar is being recorded. For those that are unable to attend a live webinar or need to refer to content while completing their application, partner sites have made similar recordings available for your reference. As we begin this webinar, we acknowledge and honor the original inhabitants of our various regions. A land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to secure meaningful partnership and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. Our institutions were founded upon exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. We honor and are grateful for the land we occupy and recognize the ongoing damage of settler colonialism. Let's take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that we are collectively gathered upon and support the resilience and strength that all the Indigenous peoples that all Indigenous peoples have shown worldwide. I am on the traditional territory of the Chumash peoples. I encourage you to name and acknowledge Native peoples where you are located in the chat box. The chat box will be closed after the land acknowledgement. The Q&A box will remain for outstanding questions.
Thank you, Eduardo. Now I'd like to welcome Julie Baker, our Executive Director here at Californians for the Arts and California Arts Advocates. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Tara, and thank you, Eduardo. And Eduardo, if you want to advance to the next screen, that'd be terrific. My name is Julie Baker. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm coming from the unceded territories of the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan, or a town otherwise known as Nevada City, California, about an hour outside of Sacramento, where pre-COVID, I spent a lot of time in the halls of the Capitol lobbying with and for the state's arts, culture, and creative industries, wearing my hat as the executive director of California Arts Advocates, where we work on legislation and funding opportunities for our sector. On the other hat, we also have Californians for the Arts, which I am also executive director of, which is a 501c3 organization. And we do things like this: policy translation. How can you access funding opportunities that California Arts Advocates lobbied for? And where can we assist you in technical assistance and other aspects of helping you to be successful in your grant application? We also do a lot of other webinars, including things about reopening arts safely, how to translate what's happening at the federal level, and other pieces of legislation like the California Creative Workforce Act, which California Arts Advocates supported and sponsored this year, and the governor signed on October 9th. So we are your statewide arts advocacy organizations. Next slide. One other thing I just want to say that's really important here in terms of the work that got us to a $150 million grant program for venues and live events here in the state of California was in this last year, we built a coalition with our friends at NEVA California, which is the National Independent Venues Association, and California Association of Museums, or CAM. And our three organizations lobbied the legislature and the administration for $1 billion in recovery for the arts, culture, and creative industries. In the end, we got about over $600 million back into the sector. And this is historic in terms of funding and recognition of the value of what you all do and what you bring to your communities, both economically and socially. So we thank you for all the work that you do and for everyone who lobbied with us to make this happen. This $150 million was part of the package, and we're excited to be partnering with Lendistry and with Cal OSBA, which is the Office of Small Business Advocates at the state, the agency that received this funding, to make sure that you are able to access it. One of the things I just want to impart here today is that lobbying never stops. Our advocacy is ongoing. And if there are issues with this program and its delivery of the program that do not match the intention of the legislation, our job is to bring this back to the state. So this is why it is really critically important that you share not only with your colleagues, but you yourselves apply for the grant. We have learned it takes on average only 2 hours to make the application. It is not like your typical nonprofit grant application where you have to write long narratives. It's really just around eligibility requirements, which we'll be going over today, and making sure you have the accurate documentation. The documentation is so that we can make sure that, again, they're checking on your eligibility as well as preventing fraud. These are important steps that they must take. And we will do our best to make sure that particularly those maybe in the nonprofit sector who, for example, have not yet filed your 2020 taxes, that this does not prohibit us from being able to access these funds. But the only way that we can know and lobby on your behalf is if you apply. So if you fit the eligibility requirements, the most important thing I want you to take away from my portion of today's event is to please take the 2 hours and apply. And if you have questions along the way, that is why Tara is here today to talk to you about specifics, and we will add in her contact information and she's available to help you. So here you go, Tara.
Thank you, Julie. So I'm excited. We're going to go over the program overview, then we're going to go over the application. I want to start by telling you that the grant is open now, and it's open until the 19th of this month at 5 p.m. I cannot stress enough how important it is that you start your application and at least include as much documentation as you can and save it. That will enable you to upload further documentation after the 19th if necessary. So I want to make sure you know that. I also want to make sure that you know that this is not a first come, first serve application. So please make sure that you get all your stuff in, you apply, and you tell your constituents. Finally, before I get started, I want to remind you that our Q&A is open. We've got 3 or 4 people standing by to answer your questions. Please go ahead and start typing in your questions as they come up. So on the program overview, if we could advance, no, we're good. What I want to make sure we talk about first is that you must physically be operating and have an address in the state of California, that you must complete a new and separate application apart from any prior application you may have completed with Lendistry or elsewhere, and that if by chance you had applied for the California Relief Grant and received funding, that you would apply for the full amount you are eligible for is with the California Venues Grant, but the amount that you were awarded in the California Relief Grant will be deducted from your final award. So I want to make sure you know that. The grant award can be the lesser of either $250,000 or 20% of your gross earned revenue. So it's quite an opportunity for everyone. Let's go on to the next page. And on the next page, I want to make sure that you know that you need to start a website application at the Lendistry portal. We'll be dropping that link in for you, and it's throughout the slide as well. Again, there are some documents that are needed. You'll need some financial documents, some IDs, some other things. You do not have to have everything to start the application. If you have anything, if you have it all, gather it, because that will make your application be no more than about 2 hours. But if you're waiting on your tax return, as Julie said, please start it and then save it as you are. The next thing I want to talk about is how you're going to be asked to link your business bank account or your organizational bank account with Lendistry's portal through Plaid. This often creates some alerts, some concerns. This is a required because if you are awarded the grant, they will be sending you your funds through an electric funds transfer. If you are uncomfortable linking your bank, there are alternative verification methods available. So if that's an issue for you, you can let me know, or you can let your Lendistry contact know as well. We're going to move on to the eligible venue. And in the eligible venue, you must have a defined performance and audience space, mixing equipment, a public address, and lighting. You must have one or more individuals to carry out no less than 2 of the following, and you see those listed there: sound engineer, booker, promoter, manager, those kind of things. And then if you're a nonprofit, I get this question a lot. If you're a nonprofit that produces free events, not a problem, but that the events must be produced and managed primarily by paid employees, not volunteers. So that's a big one for nonprofits. When we move on next to the eligible independent live events, we see that you can be a sole proprietor, a C Corp, an S Corp, a limited liability corporation, a partnership, a 501c3, a nonprofit entity, any of these things. You must have been in operation by June 1 of 2019, and you must either be currently active or have a clear plan for reopening. So those are some key pieces I want to make sure you all knew. Next, we're getting into the eligible independent live on the next page. And here it lists for you the 5 NACIS codes that have been written into this legislation. I'm getting this question a lot. People are saying to me, I don't know what a NACIS code is. We used a different NACIS code for a different application, or we used a different NACIS code for our taxes. As long as your organization can comfortably fit into one of these 5 codes, these are the codes that are eligible for this grant. So you'll want to choose one of these. Then we look at what your principal activities are, and it tells you here that you're promoting, managing, hosting events, live theatrical, that you have a cover charge or ticketing at the front door, that your performers are paid, and that, this is a key, at least 70% of the earned revenue, I want to stress earned revenue, of the individual entity is generated through either ticket sales, production fees, production reimbursements, or the sales of event beverages and merchandise. This is a very big, especially for nonprofits, because using earned revenue will change your percentages versus gross. So make sure you're using earned. We then get into the ineligible businesses. And a couple things I want to point out: that you must be a nonprofit and a registered 501c3. This means that organizations that are fiscally sponsored are unfortunately ineligible to apply. That's a big one I wanted to mention that many people don't realize. And that you must have a physical presence in the state. And if you don't have a physical presence, then you're ineligible. And finally, that if you demonstrate less than a 70% change in earned revenue between 2019 and 2020, then you wouldn't be eligible. So that means you must have at least a 70% change in earned revenue. So I want to make sure you know that. Next page, we're going to get into the eligible uses of these funds. And these funds are retroactive. I want to make sure you know about that. So retroactive means that from March 2020 to current, it can cover any of these expenses. So if you had to reach into your reserve account or into your own pocket to cover these expenses, you can use these funds to reimburse yourself and free up some of your cash flow. So expenses include employee expenses, payroll, healthcare, sick benefit insurance premiums. Those are all big. Rent, utilities, cost of reopening business, and of course, any other COVID-related expenses, which is pretty wide and varied. At this point, we do not have a defined methodology for reporting on this grant, so we are recommending that you simply keep your receipts for what you use. I want to let you know that this grant is prioritized on the percentage of gross revenue decline between 2019 and 2020. And then now we're going to get into the application portal itself. So when you go on to log into the application portal, it's going to say start an application. And you're going to click that button. You're going to enter in your email. It's going to ask you for your phone number. It's going to send you a confirmation code via text. And that's how you're going to log in each time to your portal, by entering this confirmation code. Again, if you have all your documents ready and ready to go, it's going to save you time and energy in applying. If you don't have them all, you'll want to hit the save button once you've entered everything you do have. We're then going to get into the section 1 owner details. And in the owner details, now we know that nonprofits don't have owners, but what they're asking you here is they're asking you for the person that is eligible to sign on behalf of the organization per the statement of information filed with the Secretary of State. So oftentimes that could be your executive director, your CEO, a board president, those kind of things. They are going to do a soft credit check on this person. It will not affect their credit rating by any means. This is simply to ensure that there are no fraud through the Office of Foreign Affairs. And so that's what that is there for. So you go ahead and put in your email, your information. The percentage of ownership, if it's a business, would be whatever percentage of ownership that person holds. And if it's a nonprofit, as we know, that would be 0 because nonprofits do not have an ownership. When it asks you for your referral partner, where Californians for the Arts is the partner that we are talking with right now. So that's who we ask you to choose. And then you're going to go ahead and hit that yes for that text policy on the little button. You want to click that so that you can be getting texts and emails from Lendistry on updates on what's going on. Once you've got the owner's details in, you'll go on to part 2, which is the business information. And on the business information, you're going to go ahead and list your legal name of your business. And if you have a DBA, you'll put that in there on the right-hand side. If you do not have a DBA, you do have to type in N/A. And then I want to let you know that when you go to put in your address, you cannot use a PO box. So if there is somebody's home address you want to use or something like that, or your building address, you want to use that because they don't want a PO box. And then when you go down there's a drop-down menu where it says, are you a nonprofit or a for-profit? You'll select there. And then business entity or type is a drop-down menu. You'll select there. The date that your business established, you'll put that in. And as I mentioned, it must be prior to June 1 of 2019. And then you'll put in your business URL or website. And again, if you do not have a URL or website, you'll have to put in N/A. You cannot leave any blanks on the application. We're then going to go to section 3, which is the business information part. And here's where they're going to start asking you some information about the amount requested. Again, you'll be able to calculate that based on your gross earned revenue for 2019, and you'll put that in there. The amount may differ when it's approved, and I've seen this before in prior grants. That's often because there's been a miscalculation on what you're able to receive based on your criteria. So I just wanted to let you know that. You're going to want to put in your annual revenue for 2019, and this must match your tax returns. I get a lot of questions from nonprofits about the tax returns. This is specifically if you do not have a calendar year for your taxes. The tax return with the stamp on the top that says 219 is the one they want. And for 220, the stamp on the top that says 220. That is the one that they want. When they ask you the purpose of the grant, you can use any of the approved funding purposes. So if today you decide to put down payroll and then you get the funds, and when they come in, you decide, you know, I'm going to use a little bit of this for payroll, but I'm going to also use some of it for rent. That is not a problem at all. As long as it's one of the approved expenses, you are fine to do that. And then when they ask you about number of full-time employees and part-time employees, they are asking you as of January 2020. And when they ask you about the number of jobs created and the number of jobs retained, they want to know as of December 2020. They're trying to determine how you were impacted by the COVID. And then when we're looking at the fiscal numbers, you're going to want to use the calendar numbers because we want to make sure to compare where we were really impacted month by month from COVID. So we want to make sure we do that. We're going to move on to section 4, demographics. And in the demographics, they are asking you who is your customer base? Is it business to business or business to client? I do want to let you know that these 4 questions, what does your business do? What type of business is it? And tell us more, are all related. So if you might change the drop down availability on each of those based on whether you choose business to business or business to client. So if you need to finagle that a little bit, you can do that there. And then under the NACIS code, you're going to want to put one of the 5 approved NACIS codes, the one that is the most appropriate for you and your organization. The rest of these are demographic questions. If you're a business, you're going to answer those based on the ownership of the business. If you're a nonprofit, our recommendation is to answer them based on the medium of the staff and the board. And then we get over into franchise, rural, same thing. You just answer those based on where you are. We're going to go on to number 5, disclosures. And these disclosures are very much telling you, are you eligible for a grant? So it's going through and it's asking you some of the questions about your eligibility. And you want to make sure that you answer them appropriately and accurately for your organization. So, you know, do you have a sound engineer, one or more of these? You know, do you have a performance or audience space? Those kind of questions. So just go through and answer those correctly based on your organization and the offerings that you have. We're going to go now under application before submitting. There's some great things about this application. They give you an opportunity to look at your terms and conditions. They give you an opportunity to save and come back later. They give you an opportunity to do some edits. I have some edits. I've already had a couple of questions emailed to me from people that needed to do some edits. This is where that gives you that opportunity to do that. And then once everything is good, all of your documents are uploaded. You hit everything is good and continue. And if all is well, your application will now be moved into the awaiting selection process, which I will talk about a little bit more in a moment. We're going to move on now to tech tips, and Justin from Lendistry is going to cover those for us. Welcome, Justin. Are you with us, Justin?
It's Jordan, actually. Sorry.
Right.
Oh, sorry, Jordan.
No, that's okay. So tip 1, we're going to use Google Chrome to start your application. Step 1 will be to clear your cache data. That's information that's been stored previously from any websites or applications you've done in the past. So any usernames, last name, emails, addresses, anything like that, that's old information. We don't want that to transfer over into your application. We want the most current information. Secondly, if you can also use incognito mode, it's going to allow you to enter information privately, and it'll prevent your data from being stored. Third, we want you to allow the pop-up blockers. The application includes multiple pop-up messages that use to confirm the accuracy of the information you provide. So please make sure that you disable the pop-up blocker on Google Chrome. Next slide, please. Thank you. And how to clear your cache. Step 1, open up your Google Chrome, and then you will see 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner, and then go to Settings. You'll select Privacy and Security, and then Clear Browsing Data. Step 3, you're going to select all of the options, your history, cache data, passwords, and then go ahead and click the bottom right hand, Clear Data. Next slide, please. And how to enable incognito mode. This is a private browser. So once you click on it, a darker screen should appear, and this is going to protect any information that you type in. Next slide. And then your disable pop-up blockers. Step 1, you're going to open up your Google Chrome, select the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. You're going to go to Privacy and Security again, and this time you will select Site Settings. Step 3, pop-up and redirects. Click that to select allowed instead of blocked. And next slide. Preparing your documents. So you want to make sure that any documents that you're uploading are in PDF format. JPEG files are not supported for this system. Make sure that they're under 15 megabytes. The file names, when you're naming them, make sure you don't use any type of special characters, an exclamation point, the $sign, plus sign, anything like that. Please refrain from using those. If your file is password protected, please make sure to enter that in the file name so that we can unlock the document. Some samples to the right side are going to show how to either scan your document or taking a picture of it, make sure that it is clear and legible, anything like that. I am not able to see this screen anymore. I'm not sure if my Wi-Fi went out. Is anyone able to hear me?
We can hear you, and we can see the
Jordan.
screen. So,
And we can take it over from here. Thank you. Thanks, Jordan. So the next one is on valid email addresses. It's really important for you to know that Lendistry, the system won't accept generic email addresses like info@ or contact ending with contact@ or no reply. So you want to use a personalized email address. If by some chance you don't have that for your organization, you'll want to use a personal email address. Otherwise, the system will kind of boot you out. It causes some problems. You want to make sure to do that. Next, I'm going to go into uploading documents. And when you go to upload the documents, you're going to log in. It's going to, you can make them password protected, all of those things. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see some little timers letting you know, has your government ID been uploaded properly, or your tax returns, all these things. As those are each uploaded, you'll see it turn ready to go. It's done. You're all complete. And once you've got all of those done, you've got all of your documents uploaded. What I want to let you know is what on the next page, what the required documentation is. And again, if you get the application started and you upload what you can and you save it, if there's something you need to upload later, you can. So we want to make sure you get those applications in. You're going to have the application certification. I'm going to show you how to get that in just one second. You're going to want to have your business financials for both 219 and 220. It tells you what you need there for both California and federal. You're going to want to have your government issued ID. Most people use a driver's license. A passport is also fine. You're going to want to have your interim financial statements for Q2, 3, 4 for 219 and 220, and then your official filing with the Secretary of State based on your organization and what is necessary there. If you're a nonprofit, you'll want your IRS exemption letter. And those are all the things you're going to want to make sure that you've got, because you want to make sure that you can prove that you're legally doing business in the state of California prior to June 1 of 2019. The application certification is available on the website when you go to apply. You simply open it up, print it, initial it, sign it, scan it as a PDF, and then you will have it to upload. I want to mention here that there are two different applications, one for-profit, one for nonprofit. Make sure you choose the right one, because if you are a nonprofit and you fill out the for-profit, you will not be eligible, and vice versa. So make sure you choose the right one, and then that goes together with the application certification. There's going to be one for-profit, one for nonprofit. Make sure you choose the right one, and you'll see it printed right at the top. On the next page, this shows you what the form looks like. It's just a simple document. You're basically initialing to all of the criteria, the agreements, before you scan it and upload it. The next thing is going to be your financial information. We already mentioned a little bit that we're going to be linking to Plaid, and that it's going to need your confirmation, your permission to go online and do that. I've had many people be concerned about fraud. Obviously, that is a valid concern these days. We have not had any incidents or any issues. If this is a high issue for you, let me know, and I can talk to you about how to work around this. Next, I want to cover application statuses in the portal. This is really important, because as you do the application, and when it says incomplete, that means you haven't uploaded one of the documents, those kind of things. So if you happen to be an organization that's still awaiting your 2020 tax return, as long as you've saved the document, it might say incomplete at this moment. But once you've uploaded everything, which is why we're encouraging you to upload as many of your documents as possible to maybe get your tax returns completed if you're still underway, we are going to then upload everything, and your status will become a waiting selection process. This simply means that your application is in the queue with all of the other applications to be reviewed and validated for eligibility. The next step would be then it gets pulled and it's in review pending validation. You would then either be not selected because maybe you don't meet the eligibility criteria. You might want to go back and check the eligibility criteria. If you disagree with that, please do email me, and I will work with you to see if there's something that maybe was missed, okay? And if it's awarded, then you'll get a notice from Lendistry. Somebody might contact you directly from Lendistry and ask you for additional information. And then once everything is agreed and you're awarded, you'll get a DocuSign document that you'll want to sign online. You'll have about 48 hours to do that. If the application is inactive, that's what happens when you've completed everything, but you're waiting for some more information and you haven't gotten it. So it could happen that you're still waiting for your tax returns and it's been more than 60 days, and so your application goes inactive. Once you have that tax return, you're going to want to contact myself or Lendistry, make sure your application becomes reactivated, and upload that final piece of information that you were waiting for. And then we're going to go to the last page, which is our contact information. And make sure we covered any Q&A. Sue, is there any Q&A you want to talk about online right now, live? Looks like we've only got 4 questions left. So our Q&A answers have been doing a great job.
Yeah, there's been a lot of, I thought maybe we could start with this. Hopefully it's an easy one for Lendistry and Jordan. I don't know if you're able to speak, or maybe Harshangi's lost her voice. So expected timeline for grant awards. Does anyone know, once everything's approved, how long does it take? I remember them telling us, but I don't remember the answer. Anyone remember? Tara, do you want to just say it out loud then, since you're typing?
Well, since the grant, they're not necessarily waiting until everything closes on the 19th to begin processing. So what I saw,
They are, because otherwise it wouldn't be first come, first serve. They are waiting till the 19th.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Otherwise it would be first come, first serve. So it's not. Everything gets into the pool, then they'll start to evaluate everybody who's in the pool.
Okay. Well, then what I've seen in other grants is it could be just 2 weeks, and it could be several months. So it kind of just depends on the number of applications that are received, the amount of detail and investigation that they have to do on the applications to verify that there's not a fraud, any issue like that. But I would be on, going on the portal every week, checking my status and seeing where it goes, because I literally could be within a couple of weeks or it could be within several months.
Anything more from Lendistry? Jordan, are you with us? Anyone from Lendistry on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so
Right now I don't have anything to add. Did you guys have any questions?
okay, we just wanted to see if you had anything more to add to that particular question. Well, we still have some unanswered questions, so should we go through those, Sue? Nope, you're muted.
Well, that's helpful, isn't it? Hello. So we have a question about if a theater is a part of a university, are they eligible?
So that one was a little trickier for us to answer. There are some performing arts centers, arts and lecture series at universities that have their own C3. I think if you are if you are part of the UC, it's probably harder unless you have your own C3 under the UC. But I would say that's something that you should probably reach out directly to Tara on, and we can try to get you more specifically that answer. Does that make sense, Tara?
Yes. Yeah. I've already had a couple of those questions. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything to add?
Well, I'm encouraging them to apply. That has been a little bit of a trickier issue for us, but as long as they have their own 501c3 status, I don't know any reason why they shouldn't be able to move forward.
And again, I think what's important in terms of applying, if you can meet the criteria in terms of revenue loss and the other eligibility requirements, it's important for you to apply again. So if you are deemed ineligible, we, as your lobbying organization, understand who is falling through the cracks. That is why it's so critical for us. If you don't apply, we have no idea that you need the funding and you're falling through the cracks. So, okay, Sue, another question?
Sure. There's a lot of folks asking for clarification on when you report your data for Q2, 3, and 4 for the years 19 and 20, if that should be calendar year data or fiscal year data.
We're advising people to report calendar year data where it asks you the numbers, and then they, of course, will get your fiscal year data when they see your tax returns, because we want to be able to report where we've actually been impacted by COVID-19.
Okay. And we also have people that have questions about how to calculate the number of employees and should independent contractors be included in that?
Yeah, independent contractors are not considered paid employees. It would actually be anybody that you give a W-2 to. That's a paid employee.
Okay. We have an organization that produces concerts at a camp. They don't charge tickets for the concert, but people pay a camping fee. And those fees are well over the 70% of earned revenue. Would they be eligible?
Jordan, I'd love for you to tackle that one.
For that, I would have to ask Lynn or Tina for confirmation, because that's not on the guide that we sent out. So I will have to get back to you on that.
So that person should probably contact Tara directly, and she'll have an answer, hopefully.
And the question is, are they a venue? If they're describing themselves as a venue, then they have to make sure that they meet the requirements of a venue, right? So remember, if Eduardo, do you want to go back to what are the eligibility requirements slide for a venue, or if somebody remembers those off the top of their head? But it is things like defined performance and audience space, mixing equipment and lighting rig, engages one or more individuals to carry out not less than 2 of the following roles: sound engineer, booker, promoter, stage manager, security personnel, a box office member, a manager.
And that the events are paid and produced by paid employees. Those are the 4. You got them all, actually.
And,
Good job.
and then on the live events side, the performers do need to be paid. So I see that on Sarah's question. They have to meet both of the following criteria. And it looks like cover charge and performers are paid. So I don't think volunteers then would fit.
As a follow-up to that, we have a question. If a bar or restaurant offers live performances regularly but does not collect a cover charge or a ticket price, would they be eligible?
No. It says very specifically a cover charge through ticketing or front door entrance fee is applied. So it has to be that there is a fee, it has to be really a performance venue, not to have, it's not meant for restaurants that have an artist sitting in the corner playing the guitar for background music. So it is really meant to be for, it's specifically an entertainment venue that happens to also offer food and bar, if that makes more sense.
Yeah. Jordan, I have another one that I'd love for you to take a quick stab at. If the grant amount is 20% of the applicant's gross earned revenue in California for the 2019 taxable year, is that taxable year the 2019 calendar year or our fiscal year of July 1 to June 30?
I believe it's the calendar year.
Yeah, I believe so too. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Any other questions, Sue?
Let's see here. I think we have one about community and youth orchestras that do not pay performers, and we have spoken already about performers need to be paid. That is a requirement of the grant, correct?
Yeah. So Sarah, we'll talk about that separately. Sarah is the executive director of the Association of California Symphony Orchestras, and so thank you for lifting that up. And we should work together on that for next year's budget.
We have one question left in the box, but I think Andrew should contact Tara directly to discuss the NACES code that they would fit best under.
Yeah, I mean, that 711320 is without facilities. Define a space or venue seems to clash with the NIAC. Well, it means that you can be a live event that rents the facility. You don't own the facility, for example.
And
then go ahead, Sue.
We had one more question pop up about, do we expect multiple rounds of this grant as there was with the California Relief Grant?
The answer is that we don't know.
And the answer is also that it's really until the 150 million is expended. So if, that's when you see also multiple rounds, right? Yeah. And that's why it's really important that you apply, because if there is money left after they close the 19th and they decide everyone who's eligible gets the grant and there's still money left out of the 150 million, we need to understand who fell through the cracks that we believe was the intention of the legislation for them to be eligible. And that then we could then say, look, here's all the ones, and we want to go back and fight for you in the legislature. So that's why.
Yeah, I just saw that there's a couple quick questions in the chat versus the Q&A. Nancy, your question about employees versus contractors. Employees refers specifically to people that you are issuing a W-2 to. Those are your employees. And the difference between the NACES code 711310 and 711320 is if you have a facility or if you do not. That's the only difference.
And Tara, we can clarify that you don't need to own your facility. Is that correct? If you've had it on a, say, long-term lease or a rental, that's okay?
That is correct. Mm-hmm. Yes. I think that is it. If you have any questions at all, please do feel free to reach out to me, email me, call me, whatever works best for you. I'm happy to answer your questions. That's
No, there's
actually
another one just came up. Since
Okay.
we have a little bit of time, we might as well. Okay, so I think it's just another one. If the percentage reduction year over year is based on a calendar year, where are you going to get that? The interim financial statements are based on a calendar year, but you are only asking for 3 quarters. The Form 990 is on a fiscal year basis. That is the only form that's been the full year revenue. So it seems that the percentage reduction has to be on a fiscal basis.
I understand your question, and we
Okay.
actually have elevated that question to Lendustry, and we're trying to get a clear answer on that.
So Lisa, the answer is check back. So send that question to Tara Venues Grant at californiansforthearts.org, and she'll make sure to get the answer to you as soon as we have it. So there's a question from Nancy Fox. I don't understand. We use a facility, but we don't own it. We rent it. Which NAICS code account should we use? Does anyone from Lendustry want to respond to that? Because I may have confused people by saying that. So is it 71130 or 711320?
I believe it's 711320 because they don't have their own facility.
So it's the definition of that one is promoters of performing arts, sports, and similar events without facilities versus promoters of performing arts and similar events with facilities.
Yeah, if you don't have your own facility, then you would choose the one without.
It's going to be the one.
Either one is
Yes, I'm sorry. It's going to be the one 320.
20.
Yeah.
Without facilities. And again, it's not, don't worry too much that you're, again, Lendustry and your, main person like Tara will help you with those questions as well. So do your best and then they'll go back, right?
Yeah. And Daniel, I just saw your question in the chat again. Please put any questions in the Q&A. Would you email me so we can have a further discussion on that one? Because I'm not, I need a little bit more information to be able to give you a clear answer. Okay. Yeah, I think, is there anything else before we wrap up for today? I want to thank everyone for joining us. I really wish everyone the best of luck with this grant. We're super excited to be able to support you in it.
So they're asking if you've leased a facility for 20 years, you still use the code without a facility? I don't think so. It says managed and operated by others. You're the one, if you're the one managing it, then you should use the one that says with facility, right?
I believe so, yes.
I know, Beatrice, I think we confused this. So let's be clear about this, about the 2 different codes. Again, I would say choose the one that you think makes the most sense to you. And then we'll manage that on the back end if we need to. Right? Does that make sense, Tara?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you have any questions or any concerns, you can always email me.
And then under 9, there's 3 types of eligible. Only the first one was. It says she asked a question. There are 3 types of eligible entities. Only the first one requires at least 70% of earned revenue to be generated from ticket sales and productions fees. Does this mean the other 2 eligible entities does not require this? Under number 9.
Mm-hmm. That's on eligible independent live venues. Jordan, do you understand her question? Can you answer that one?
Eddie, can you pick
Tara, can you?
that slide up?
Yeah, it's the eligible independent live venue definitions, starting with number 8.
Next slide. Okay, stop.
Yeah, so the question is under number 9, which is the part in red. In the guidelines, there are 3 types of eligible entities. Only the first one requires at least 70% of earned revenue to be generated from ticket sales and production fees. Does this mean the other two eligible entities do not require it?
Let me see. Which entities is in question?
Well, she's just speaking to the entities on the.
I think the answer is yes. Jen, it says an individual entity meets both of the following criteria, and it's the dots, right? One criteria is your principal activity is doing this, including cover charge and performers are paid, and the second criteria is at least 70%. So you need to be able to meet all of those. Right? Don't you think, Tara, Sue, Arshangi, Jordan?
Yes, I think you're correct, Julie.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it. I think we've wrapped it up. Thank everyone. We will send you an email with this recording on it for your use, as well as the slide deck. We'll be having several other webinars. Please do share the information about this with everyone so we can get back to them. And then if you have any specific questions, please do email me and let me know, and I'm happy to research those and get back to you.
And again, please apply, please apply, please apply. It shouldn't take you more than 2 hours, and then we will support you as much as we can. And if you are not eligible, we need to understand why, because we want to make sure that you are taken care of, that you can recover and you can continue to do the excellent programming and offerings that you do to both build economic resiliency and bring social cohesion and wellness to all of our communities. So thank you for everything that you do, and we want to help you as well. So I'll just one more time put Tara's information in the chat, and please reach out if you have specific questions.
Eduardo, if you could come to the last page, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I look forward to hearing from everyone and helping everyone. Best of luck with the grant.